This is the single golden rule to wealth creation. Welcome to the movement. If you're here, you're special. It means you want to achieve financial literacy, then financial freedom, and ultimately wealth. Welcome to Peter Lloyd World of Wealth. First up, let me tell you, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just some random reggae star on YouTube sharing my life experiences. Seek professional financial help before you make any financial decision. When I did my very first Walt Disney series called Return to Treasure Island, I was extremely young. Let's say I had not entered my 20s. And for the first time in my life, I held on to some decent money. What did I do? I did something that I think many persons who are not financially literate do when they get a hold of a large sum of money. I was in England when I got paid, and I went over to Harrods and bought my mom jewelry, bought myself some clothing, and spent money on a lot of ultimately nonsense. The next thing I did, based on financial ignorance, is that I said, what do rich people do when they have money? I found a broker in England, gave that person my money, and that was pretty much the end of that. One of the reasons why I'm passionate about doing this particular project, this channel, is because I really don't want many of you to make the mistakes I made when I was a lot younger. The truth is, there's really only one golden rule to wealth creation. Really one rule that once you understand this rule, if you truly understand this rule, then creating financial freedom and ultimately wealth is highly doable, highly possible. Now, you might say that doesn't sound realistic. One rule? How come many people aren't doing it? Well, I'll explain. In his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the single thing that jumped out to me, I think it was in the first chapter, or at least the second chapter, was when he said these words. He said, the rich buy assets, the poor buy liabilities. It took me about 5 years before I completely understood what the heck he was talking about. Yes, and I'm going to say it right now, at the very beginning of this video. That's the single golden rule to wealth creation. The rich buy assets, and I don't want to say the poor, I'd say the financially ignorant buy liabilities. This is really ultimately all that we're talking about. Now, when his definition of what is an asset is simple. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. It creates cash flow. You make money from purchasing this item or investing in this item. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. It removes your potential wealth. Like I said, it took me 5 years before I understood that. Now, as a prominent personality for quite some time, I spent a lot of my years trying to impress. I thought that to make money, you have to look as if you have money. And of course, if you're a public figure, you can't walk around looking broke. I'm going to go back to it. The single golden rule to wealth creation is really just this rule. The rich buy assets. The financially illiterate buy liabilities. Now, because we live in a world where we are constantly bombarded by sales pitches from every particular and perceivable angle. The truth is, we spend a lot of our time buying liabilities and often believe that these liabilities are actually assets. And like I said, liabilities take money out of your pocket. I did this several times in my life. When I did Return to Treasure Island, as I just told you. And by the way, the second part of that, handing my money to the broker without understanding what he was going to invest my money in, was also foolish because it meant I was financially illiterate. And I kind of think if you're going to create something, you need to have a handle on what you're creating. You need to understand the fundamentals of what you're doing. If you're going to build a car, you actually have to understand something about the engine, true? Now, what are assets? Now, I can tell you what are assets. I can name them out to you. Stocks are assets. Stocks, what are stocks? Stocks, when you purchase a share or a stock, you can use the terms interchangeably, apologies. When you do that, you are purchasing a small piece of a company, I would say that's an asset, because if it works, you will be putting money in your pocket. The stock will grow, and if you collect dividends, but that's for another video. Bonds are also assets because it generates income. Property, particularly commercial property, is assets. If you invest in a startup business, for instance, that is considered an asset. Investing in yourself, meaning improving your self-development, your education, that is also an asset, because the more educated you are, the more you understand, it's the greater your opportunities for generating income. I would say certain types of art pieces are an asset. Owning copyright, music, etc., is an asset. Owning a patent for something that you have created, invented, is an asset. And what is now popularly referenced referenced as a side hustle. Liabilities, well, those are the things that we often get confused about. A car is a liability. It is. It takes money out. You have to maintain it. It takes money out of your pocket, and it actually doesn't generate real income unless you have a taxi or you're using it to transport people for payment. That's a different thing. And you're not gonna like this one, but designer anything, designer clothes, Louis Vuitton bags, that kind of stuff is really a liability, because I mean, unless you are that rare investor who is purchasing these items with the goal of selling them back, holding on to them, never using them, it's generally considered a liability. Vacations are also liabilities because they generally don't put money in your pocket. Eating out, liability. And you're not going to like this one, but most people believe that your home is a liability, because if you own a home, you know that it costs a lot of money to maintain that home. So yeah, the money you're spending, it's a liability. Going out, partying, etc., liabilities. Your gadgets, your phones, etc., get liabilities. Gifts to friends, etc., loans, etc., to others, unless the loans are going to be paid back to you, liabilities. And I can keep going on and on. Now, nobody likes the liability list, because these are things that we often do. And the truth is, I did a lot of this stuff when I was younger. I bought things because I thought this is what the rich people did. You know, I bought designer clothing. I drove very nice cars. I'm not saying you can't do any of that stuff, but the truth is, they were all liabilities. All those things simply took money out of my pocket. Now, I am not going to tell you that you should simply ignore what people think about you. Actually, you really should. But it's a lot harder to do, and most people can't do it. But I think the decisions you have to make fundamentally is, what is important to you? Do you want to create real financial freedom, real wealth, or do you want to look as if you have a lot of money? Now, I'm not saying that all the people you see who are, wear designer stuff, etc., are broke. That's actually not true. In today's world of social media influencers, there are many people, and I just said it to you, many of us as artists dress well, drive nice vehicles, because it's what is expected. And the truth is, very, very often, promoters tend to pay you better if you look as if you're already affluent. But that's not the case with most. Most of us who purchase these items to look as if we're wealthy do it because we believe it's the right thing to do. We want to be to fit in, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And more often than not, we do it because we're just ignorant. We don't really know any better. I'm going to be honest with you. When I was growing up, I thought the wealthy people that were the people who drove the really, really, like the Mercedes-Benz, etc. The designer stuff, went out partying constantly, etc. And as I've matured, I realized that a lot of those people really, really were not wealthy. And in fact, a lot of the wealthy people that I knew, I had no idea that these people were really wealthy. Really, really, really wealthy. So the truth is, the one rule you really need to understand about wealth creation is really simple. Purchase assets and avoid liabilities at all costs. That's it. Assets versus liability. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Remember, let's get wealthy together.